160,000 homes. Right now, as you're watching this, 160,000 homes in California have no power. And that number keeps climbing. But here's what's truly shocking. While the West Coast battles historic storms, an Arctic blast is forming that will send temperatures plunging across the entire nation, from Texas to Florida, from the Rockies to the Atlantic. In 30 seconds, I'm going to reveal the 3 critical dates when this cold will hit hardest, and why meteorologists are calling this pattern dangerous. Here's your reward for staying with me. There's a snowstorm brewing for the Northeast that could drop 6 to 9 inches from Pennsylvania to Long Island. But the ice? That's the real threat. Some areas are looking at 3/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. That's catastrophic, and I'm going to tell you exactly where and when. Right now, tornado warnings are posted across California. Yes, you heard that right. Tornadoes in California. On Christmas, wind gusts reaching 70 to 80 miles per hour near Los Angeles. Multiple landslides reported in the last 24 hours alone. This isn't normal. This isn't typical winter weather. This is an atmospheric pattern gone wild. But the California situation, that's just the opening act. The main event is what's coming behind it. An Arctic blast so intense that high temperatures, not overnight lows, but daytime high temperatures, will struggle to break freezing across half the country. Some areas will see negative numbers. Not wind chill, actual air temperature. Let me paint you a picture of what's developing. Right now, there's a battleground forming across the northern tier of states. Warm air pushing north, cold air diving south. And where they meet, that's where the violence happens. Freezing rain. The most dangerous winter precipitation type. Not snow, not sleet, freezing rain. Minnesota and Wisconsin, you're first. Tonight, into tomorrow morning, 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. Now, you might think 1/10 of an inch doesn't sound like much. Let me explain why you're wrong. Any ice accumulation over 1/4 inch brings down power lines, snaps tree branches, creates road conditions that persist for days. And in northern Minnesota and Wisconsin, some models are showing 2/10 of an inch, double the amount that causes serious problems. But here's where it gets worse. Much worse. By Friday, that freezing rain zone shifts east and intensifies. Pennsylvania, western New York, northern Maryland, you're looking at 1/4 inch of ice. Some areas could see 3/4 of an inch. Think about that for a moment. 3/4 of an inch of ice coating every surface, every power line, every tree branch, every road. That's not an inconvenience. That's a potential disaster. Power outages will be widespread. Travel will be impossible. And temperatures? They'll be in the 20 seconds. Low 20 seconds in many areas. Now imagine being without power in those conditions. No heat, no lights, temperatures barely above 20 degrees outside, and dropping inside your home hour by hour. This is why preparation isn't optional. This is why checking on vulnerable neighbors isn't just nice, it's essential. The Bible tells us to love our neighbor as ourselves. This is what that looks like in practice. Making sure elderly neighbors have what they need. Checking that people with medical conditions have backup power for essential equipment. Offering space in your home if someone loses heat. Faith without works is dead. This is the work. This is the calling. At the 5-minute mark, I promised you specific timeline details. Here they are. Christmas night into Thursday morning. Freezing rain develops across northeastern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. Light at first, then intensifying. 1/10 of an inch possible, maybe more. Thursday afternoon into evening, the freezing rain zone expands. Upper Michigan sees sleet and freezing rain. Roads become treacherous. Travel should be avoided. Thursday night into Friday morning. This is when things get serious. The ice zone shifts east into Michigan, Pennsylvania, western New York. Heavy freezing rain develops. Accumulations build quickly. Friday morning, the most dangerous period. Rush hour with ice-covered roads. Power outages beginning as ice weighs down lines. Temperature in the low 20 seconds across the affected region. Friday afternoon into evening. Freezing rain continues across Pennsylvania and western New York. Ice accumulations reaching 1/4 inch in many areas. Some locations, particularly in the mountains, could see 3/4 of an inch. That's catastrophic levels. Friday night, precipitation begins transitioning to snow across the interior northeast. Heavy snow develops. Snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour in the heaviest bands. Saturday morning, heavy snow continues, 3 to 5 inches across much of the interior, but the pink zones on the map, that's 6 to 9 inches. Eastern Pennsylvania, central and northern New Jersey, New York, Long Island, possibly southwestern Connecticut. And all of this, every bit of this weather, it's happening while an Arctic blast assembles to the north. Let me tell you about this cold air, because what's coming isn't just cold, it's dangerous cold. Saturday evening into Sunday morning, the Arctic front arrives. Temperatures crash across the northern plains and upper Midwest. Wind chills become dangerous. Frostbite possible in minutes for exposed skin. High temperatures, daytime highs, remain frozen across a massive swath of the country. The 22nds across the northern states, teens in some locations, and the wind, 40-mile-per-hour gusts in some areas. Wind chills in the negative numbers. This continues through Monday. The cold doesn't retreat, it intensifies, it spreads. Monday morning, freezing temperatures reach the Four Corners region, northern Texas all the way to Indiana. Some areas experience negative air temperatures before wind chill is even factored in. The wind chill? That's where it gets truly dangerous. -15 to -30 degree wind chills across portions of the West, South Central, and Great Lakes regions. Exposed skin freezes in minutes. Hypothermia becomes a real risk for anyone caught outside without proper protection. Pets left outside are in danger. Pipes in poorly insulated homes can burst. This is serious cold, life-threatening cold. Tuesday morning, the deepest penetration of Arctic air. Freezing temperatures from Washington and Oregon clear across to the Carolinas. Northern Texas, possibly Dallas-Fort Worth, experiences hard freezes. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia all see temperatures at or below 32 degrees. The wind chill pushes the freeze zone even deeper into Texas and across Louisiana and the Gulf Coast. Infrastructure in the South isn't designed for this. Pipes aren't insulated the way they are in the North. Heating systems aren't rated for extended hard freezes. This creates vulnerabilities that don't exist during typical southern winters. Now, here's something that concerns meteorologists. There's a potential storm system developing right as this Arctic air arrives. Look at the pattern. Cold air plunging south. Warm, moist air trying to push north from the Gulf. When those two air masses collide, you get storms. Potentially significant storms. The European model shows a strengthening low-pressure system Sunday into Monday. If this develops, and it's still beyond the high-confidence forecast window, so details are uncertain, but if it develops, it could bring a major snowstorm to portions of the Northeast. The exact track matters enormously. A shift of 50 miles changes who gets heavy snow and who gets rain or mixed precipitation. The American GFS model shows something similar but positions the low pressure further west, over Illinois. That track would bring wraparound snowfall to different areas as the system moves through Sunday evening into Monday. Either way, whether it's the European track or the American track, we're looking at a storm system developing in a very cold air mass. That means whatever precipitation falls, it's going to be snow for most areas, and potentially a lot of it. But even if the storm doesn't materialize exactly as modeled, the cold is coming. That's certain. Multiple model runs over multiple days, all showing the same overall pattern. Arctic air diving deep into the United States. Temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below average. In some locations, 40 degrees below average. Sustained cold, not just a quick shot. Saturday through Tuesday, 4 days of dangerous cold, then a brief moderation as we head into New Year's. Temperatures rebound slightly. Not warm, but not as brutally cold. But here's the concerning part. The long-range models show this isn't a one-time event. As we push into mid-January, another Arctic blast appears likely, possibly even colder than this one. The pattern seems to be setting up for repeated intrusions of Arctic air through the middle of winter. After one of the warmest Decembers on record across much of the country, January is shaping up to be brutally cold. That's a significant pattern shift. and pattern shifts create adjustment periods. Infrastructure that's been sitting in 50 and 60-degree temperatures suddenly has to handle teens and 20 seconds. That's when problems emerge. Let me give you practical preparation steps. Region by region, what you need to do. Upper Midwest, you're first in line for both the freezing rain and the Arctic blast. Stock up on essentials today. Make sure your heating system is functioning properly. Have backup heat sources ready. Stock firewood if you have a fireplace. Check on elderly neighbors before the ice arrives. Great Lakes, similar situation. Freezing rain threat Thursday into Friday, then the deep freeze. Prepare now while you still can. Once the ice arrives, travel becomes impossible. Northeast, you get the ice Friday, then heavy snow Friday night into Saturday. Then the Arctic blast. Triple threat. This is a multi-day event. Make sure you have enough supplies to shelter in place for several days if necessary. Mid-Atlantic, ice is your primary concern. Power outages are likely in the zones forecasting quarter-inch or more of ice. Charge all devices. Fill bathtubs with water for emergency flushing. Have manual can openers for food. Know where your water shutoff valve is in case pipes burst. You're not used to extended hard freezes. Protect sensitive plants. Bring pets inside. Let faucets drip to prevent pipe freezing. Open cabinet doors under sinks to allow warm air to circulate around pipes. Disconnect garden hoses from outdoor faucets. Northern Texas, you're looking at freezing temperatures for potentially 48 hours straight. Dallas-Fort Worth area, this is significant for you. The infrastructure challenges Houston faced in previous winter events could occur across a wider area. West Coast California, you're already dealing with the current storm. More is coming. Multiple feet of additional snow in the Sierra, continued heavy rain along the coast. Mudslide danger remains high, especially in burn scar areas. Travel through the mountains is treacherous. Chain requirements in effect. Highway closures likely. If you don't absolutely have to travel, don't. Wait until the pattern breaks. Now, let me address something important. I keep mentioning power outages, especially related to ice. When ice accumulates on power lines, weight becomes the issue. A quarter-inch of ice on power lines increases the weight significantly. Lines sag. Branches coated in ice break and fall onto lines. Utility poles can snap under the load. Once outages occur, repairs are difficult. Crews have to navigate ice-covered roads. They have to work in freezing temperatures with freezing rain still falling in some cases. Response times lengthen. This is why utilities often warn of extended outages during ice storms. It's not that they don't care. It's that the conditions make repairs extremely challenging and dangerous. So what do you do if you lose power during this event? First, stay calm. Panic helps no one. Second, limit opening doors and windows. Preserve what heat you have in your home. Third, gather family members in one room. Body heat helps. Smaller spaces are easier to keep warm. Fourth, use emergency heat sources safely. Never use generators indoors. Carbon monoxide kills. Never use charcoal grills indoors. Same reason. Fifth, check on neighbors, especially elderly neighbors. They may need help. They may need to shelter with you. Sixth, keep phones charged using car chargers if necessary. Maintain communication ability. Seventh, if your home becomes unsafe due to temperature, go to a warming center or shelter. Pride isn't worth freezing. This is community in action. This is loving your neighbor. This is faith expressed through works. God gives us the knowledge to prepare, the resources to help, the community to support each other. Using those gifts isn't just smart, it's obedient to the calling we've been given. Now, let me talk about the California situation in more detail, because while the East prepares for ice and cold, the West is battling current disasters. 160,000 homes without power. That number has been fluctuating, going up and down as crews make repairs and new outages occur. The counties most affected are along the coast and in higher elevations. These are the areas taking direct hits from the atmospheric river. Landslides continue. 2 more reported in the last 24 hours. When you get rainfall rates exceeding an inch per hour on saturated ground, especially in burn scar areas, the soil simply can't hold. Highways close. Homes are threatened. In some cases, evacuations are ordered. And the wind, 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts near Los Angeles. That's hurricane force wind. That's wind that damages structures, topples trees, creates flying debris hazards. The tornado threat across California has expanded. 2% tornado probability across northern, central, and southern California. Cities at risk today. Now, tornadoes in California aren't common, but they're not impossible. When you have this much atmospheric instability, this much wind shear, tornadoes can develop. They're typically weaker than Midwest tornadoes, EF0 or EF1 on the enhanced Fujita scale. But even weak tornadoes cause damage. Even weak tornadoes are dangerous. The higher elevations continue to see snow. Feet of snow. The Sierra is measuring accumulations in multiples of feet now, 4 to 5 feet in some locations already. Another 4 to 5 feet forecast. That's good for water supply. California desperately needs snowpack. But it's also creating avalanche danger, travel hazards, structural loads on buildings. This same storm pattern stretches all the way to the Four Corners. It will bring storms further north to the Oregon and Washington coast tonight. By tonight and tomorrow, Idaho, Montana, western Wyoming see the precipitation. Good snowfall for the northern Rockies, a foot or more in many locations. This is beneficial moisture for a region that's been too dry this winter. But it's all connected. The storm battering California, the freezing rain developing in Minnesota, the Arctic blast assembling to the north. One massive atmospheric pattern playing out across the entire continent. The jet stream has dipped into a high-amplitude pattern, deep troughs, tall ridges. And when the pattern has high amplitude, you get extreme weather on both ends of the temperature spectrum. California sits under a deep trough. Cold air aloft despite mild surface temperatures. Storms repeatedly slamming into the same areas. The eastern United States is about to transition from a ridge to a trough, from well above average temperatures to well below average. That transition, that's when the severe weather happens. Now, I mentioned earlier that this Arctic blast retreats briefly at the start of January, then returns in mid-January. Let me explain that pattern. The Arctic air currently locked over Canada and Alaska, it's going to plunge south this weekend. But it's not a permanent relocation. The pattern allows it to retreat back north after a few days. We warm up slightly, not back to the 60 seconds and 70 seconds we saw earlier this week, but back into more seasonal temperatures, 30 seconds and 40 seconds across much of the country. Then, as we push into the second week of January, the pattern shifts again. Another Arctic intrusion, possibly deeper than this one, possibly longer lasting. The European weekly forecasts and the American weekly forecasts both show this. They don't agree on every detail, but they agree on the overall pattern, repeated cold air intrusions through mid-January. What does this mean practically? It means winter is finally arriving. After a slow start, after one of the warmest Decembers on record, winter is making up for lost time. It means keeping winter gear accessible. It means not being surprised by cold temperatures. It means preparing for potential winter storms that develop in this colder pattern. And for those who depend on winter, ski resorts, winter recreation businesses, this is good news. Real winter, consistent cold, snow on the ground. For farmers and ranchers, it's a mixed bag. Cold stress on livestock, but also moisture, which has been lacking in many areas. For energy infrastructure, it's a test. Heating demand will surge. Natural gas consumption will spike. The grid will be stressed, especially if widespread power outages occur from ice. This is why we prepare. This is why we plan. This is why we take these forecasts seriously. Let me address something I know some of you are thinking. Why should I trust these long-range forecasts? Fair question. Long-range forecasting is less accurate than short-range. A 7-day forecast is less reliable than a 3-day forecast. A 10-day forecast is less reliable than a 7-day. But here's the thing. We're not trying to tell you the exact temperature in your backyard on January 15th. We're telling you the pattern, the trend. And when multiple independent forecast models, American, European, Canadian, all show similar patterns, that's meaningful. That's signal, not noise. Will every detail verify exactly as forecast? No. Will the overall pattern of below-average temperatures and repeated cold air intrusions likely occur? Yes. Use that information wisely. Don't overinterpret specific details weeks out. Do prepare for a colder-than-average January. Now, as we approach the end of this forecast, let me bring it all together. We have an ice storm developing Thursday into Friday. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York. Dangerous travel. Likely power outages. This is a significant event. Behind the ice, heavy snow Friday night into Saturday, 6 to 9 inches for portions of the Northeast. This is on top of whatever ice already fell. Behind the snow, Arctic air, dangerous cold. Saturday through Tuesday, temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below average, wind chills in the negative numbers across wide areas. A potential storm system Sunday into Monday that could bring additional heavy snow to portions of the Northeast and Great Lakes. Track still uncertain, but something to watch. Brief moderation at the start of January, then another Arctic blast mid-month. Repeated cold intrusions likely through the middle of winter. That's a lot. That's an active pattern. That's weather that demands attention and preparation. But it's not the end of the world. It's winter. Real winter. The kind that creates challenges but also creates memories. Use the knowledge you've been given. Prepare wisely. Help your neighbors. Build community. And remember, we're not in control of the weather, but we are responsible for how we respond to it. The Creator established the patterns, the seasons, the rhythms of nature. Our job is to observe, understand, and live wisely within creation. That's stewardship. That's using the gifts we've been given for the good of others. So as this weather develops, as the ice falls and the snow accumulates and the cold air arrives, respond with wisdom, respond with compassion, respond with faith. Check your emergency supplies. Stock up on essentials. Make sure your heating system works. Know where your water shutoff valve is. Have a plan for power outages. And check on your neighbors. Especially the elderly, especially those living alone, especially those with medical conditions. A simple phone call could save a life. A simple offer of help could make all the difference. That's what community looks like. That's what faith in action looks like. The forecast will continue to update. Details will sharpen as we get closer. But the overall pattern is clear. Significant winter weather Thursday through Saturday. Dangerous cold Saturday through Tuesday. Active pattern continuing into mid-January. Stay informed. Check forecasts daily. Understand that details will evolve, but the big picture is reliable. Stay prepared. Have what you need before the weather arrives. Don't wait until the last minute. Stay connected. Maintain communication with family and neighbors. Make sure vulnerable people have what they need. And stay faithful. Trust that even in challenging weather, even in difficult circumstances, we're not alone. We're not abandoned. We have each other. We have our communities. We have our faith. The storms will pass. The cold will moderate. Spring will come, as it always does. But for now, for this week and next, we navigate winter weather. Real winter weather. Challenging winter weather. And we do it together. With wisdom, with preparation, with compassion for those who need help. That's the forecast. That's the outlook. That's the calling. Until the next update, stay safe, stay warm, and may God's protection cover you and yours through whatever weather comes. The challenge is real, but so is the community. So is the faith. So is the love we're called to show each other. Face the storm with confidence. Not confidence in your own strength, but confidence that when we work together, when we help each other, when we live out our faith in practical ways, we can weather anything. The ice will fall. The snow will accumulate. The cold will arrive. Those are certainties. But so is this. We will get through it. Together. Prepared. Faithful. That's the message. That's the truth. That's the promise. Stay blessed. Stay safe. And keep watching the skies